Welcome back to the unofficial Squarespace Entrepreneur Podcast. My name is Omari Haribin. I'm your host, founder of SQSPthemes.com. And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is making and selling Squarespace templates. Today's guest is Kate Scott, who's recently launched a course called Scale with Templates. And it's all about everything you need to know in order to make that transition from selling your services to clients to turning your skills into an asset and selling it as a product. So without any further ado, I'm going to allow Kate to introduce herself and give us a little background into how she got here.
Yeah, so I started in 2018, I started a marketing business. And that was sort of my first formal business structure. I'd been a blogger for many years before that. And so I started this marketing business, and my very first client asked me to build her a website. And I had just built my website on Squarespace, mostly because I have shiny object syndrome and I wanted to try something other than WordPress. And I fell in love with it. And so I built her website. And in the process of doing that, I realized that marketing in general wasn't really what I was passionate about. I was passionate about web design and website strategy and all of that. So I ended up closing up shop very quickly after that. I took a few months off to kind of educate myself more about Squarespace, learn more of the coding behind Squarespace. I took Meg Summerfield's course to kind of polish my skills. And then I relaunched in 2019 as a Squarespace designer, and it's all been uphill from there.
Wow, awesome. So that's interesting. I feel like I've taken the opposite path of being a marketer, trying my hand at design and development just to get by, and then just reverting back to my marketing, savvy as my go-to. So what were you doing before that, just out of curiosity, before you started your own agency or?
Blogging. Yeah, I was a
Okay.
book blogger for a number of years, and that became quite popular. And so I just sort of figured that after a certain amount of time, I needed to transition into something that was a little bit more lucrative, because it's very hard to make a living in that particular space.
Wow. Okay. So I can see how the skills come together, because you are quite a writer or blogger as well.
Thank you.
um, so, all right. So you're now decided, okay, I'm going to design. I like this. How do you go and get your first clients? Like, what's that like for you?
So actually, my first client was a referral from the manager of my local business bank.
Ah.
That's actually how I got started. In fact, my first two clients were referrals from him. And from there, I really started early on because of my experience with blogging. I started very early working on my SEO, constantly blogging, constantly putting content out there. And very quickly, that started to be the primary way of getting clients. And it built up slowly. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight, but
Yeah.
that's how most people found me. And I had a few contacts from my blogging days as well. So
Yeah, there's definitely compounding effect to blogging and SEO. Starts off slow, but when it picks up, it's up.
yes, for real. I mean
Um,
it. Yeah.
so I was reading your sales page for Scale with Templates, and you mentioned kind of that transition point of, if I wanna grow my business beyond my own time, energy, labor, effort, I have to do something else. What was the catalyst there? What made you say, okay, this is an opportunity for me to grow and kind of expand my horizons?
Yeah, well, I have a chronic illness, and I was really burned out. And it didn't take very much to get me to that point, because I also find client work stressful anyway. I think that having deadlines, if you're a person that doesn't really like deadlines, if you're a person that doesn't really like hopping on sales calls all the time, it's very, very stressful. And so that, compounded with my illness, made me realize that I need to completely restructure my business here. I need to have an out so that when I have a bad month,
Hmm.
I can, still be earning an income without killing myself in the process.
Right. Wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And was there a reason why you went with templates as opposed to, like, starting off with a course? What was like your decision making process between, all right, should I start with templates, or like, what am I going to make to kind of fill this potential income gap?
Yeah, well, when I took Meg Summerfield's course way back when I started my business, I had built this website for a fake client,
Mm,
and I realized that that would make the perfect prototype for a template. And
yeah.
so I thought, I've already done half the work. I should just keep going with that.
Mm,
And I felt like, starting with a product would be easier than starting with a course, because you really have to build up, I think, your reputation within a community in order to successfully sell a course. And I was
mhm.
still fairly new in business. I'd only been in business for about eight or 9 months when I started building my first template. And so I just thought, it's going to be easier to start with a digital product. So I'll just, go there and see what happens next.
Yeah, yeah. Um, cool. So now that you are, you've got templates up for sale. I'm an affiliate of your templates. Um, what's kind of like, you've got this scale with templates. What's next on the horizon? Like, how do you see your business growing from here?
That's a great question, because I've been asking myself that recently, because there's so many different directions that I want to go. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, feeling
Mm-hmm.
pulled by all of the different things that you're passionate about. So, I have an idea for another course that I may work on this fall. I may release some 7.1 templates. I may explore a new platform. I just don't know yet which direction I'm going to end up going in. But right now I'm in the sitting down and trying to find clarity stage, now that I've completed this part of my business.
Yeah, I know that feeling. And I think one of the best parts is you can actually start to like, plan longer term in terms of like the kinds of things that you want to take on without the immediate, how am I going to take care of next month kind of
Yeah.
stresses.
Yes.
So huge benefit there. Let's see, is there anything else that, for listeners who are curious about your course and might be on the fence, they might be saying, well, I don't know if this is going to be worth it for me. I want to do this, but I'm not sure. Like, what would you say? What's your take on that?
Well, one of the things that I really learned in the process of building up my template shop is that I think a lot of people think that selling templates is just building a template, figuring out how to deliver it, and then releasing it into the world.
Mm,
But there is so much involved in the customer service part of things, from the tutorials that you provide with your template to make sure that people can actually customize it,
mm-hmm,
to, your post-purchase email sequence, which is something that most people don't really think a lot about,
mm-hmm.
to the kind of customer service you provide, the parameters that you set around that. There's a lot that's involved in that. And
Yeah.
we spend a lot of time in the course focusing on that, because I think that if you want to get great testimonials, if you want to have a lot of referrals, you have to really get that customer service piece in place and have it be really strong.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great selling point, and I could definitely attest to that. I was sharing with a friend today who was asking me, he was saying, "Hey, what does it take to, he was asking me if he could hire a designer to create the templates and so on." And I said, "Yeah, that, the upfront, there's some upfront cost and time and whatever, but what you have to be aware of is that on the back end, support is the biggest thing." And so knowing how to go into that upfront with those parameters, like you mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get overburdened.
Yep.
Knowing that back end flow of like, okay, someone has purchased the plugin, they might need a little bit of extra help, or they might need to know that they're not kind of like going to be stranded if something goes wrong. There's so many of those considerations that, like, even now with Squarespace themes, I'm still processing and still kind of like developing that structure, because it's not something that I was aware of going into it.
Mm-hmm.
Going into it, it's just like, I want to sell something. And
Yeah.
then you start selling something. And as the more stuff you sell, the more the support goes up. And it's like, all right, my real business is a support business. And, that's actually where I gain all of the market and insights from. Because I feel like once you have a product that sells and people are buying it, then the communication that you have with your existing customers, that sets the tone for who's going to come next. That gives you insights for what they liked, what they didn't like, what you can make better. So I feel like, yeah, that support mindset is really key to success out here.
Yeah.
Um, well, Kate, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing with us. If you haven't already checked it out, katescott.co, right?
Yes.
That's the website, and you can find the course on there. I'll obviously share a link to it. And yeah, thanks again, Kate.
Thank you, Omari.